Anyway, oh, um, anyway, welcome again to everyone. So because obviously we're not doing in person like we did 2 years ago, because we didn't do it in 2020, of course, we're going to go ahead and do the format, and I'll explain that so we're all on the same page. First of all, I want to give credit to Charlene McKenzie. This was her original idea, and she's had input into it both times, but both times she hasn't been present with us. This year, she's on vacation enjoying family elsewhere. So we know she's having a great time, but we miss her. Anyway, the format that we're going to use is that Larry is going to be our master of ceremony. Master meaning he has a number of things that he's doing during our program. And then he will introduce Pam, and Pam will be telling us what she's going to be doing. So we have 10 scenarios of Dear Abby. And so we would truly enjoy hearing your input about experiences similar to what we hear about in the scenarios. So with that, Larry, I'm going to hand it back to you to tell us what you're going to be doing, and we're off and running. Thank you.
Well, I'm going to be drinking coffee and listening to Dear Abby, but other than that, let me just say that I will try to keep track of who has questions or comments that they would like to add. Jerry and Pam would encourage you to add your own personal experiences to each one of these scenarios. The way to do that is at the bottom of your screen, you will see a little icon that says reactions. If you click on reactions, thumbs up and different little emojis will pop up, but below that it says raise hand. So if you just click on raise hand, then you'll come up on my screen that you have something that you would like to contribute to that particular topic. And I will keep track of that. And after we get the input from Jerry and Pam, then we'll open it to the floor and we'll control the questions. We'd ask that you certainly share your experience, but try to keep it to 2 to 3 minutes so that everybody has a chance to chime in. Let's see. I've got, Gretchen is not with us. She's out of town this weekend captioning, but we've got their automated speech recognition program running. If you need to move those captions, just hold your mouse down and on the caption box, and you can move it around with your mouse. You can move it wherever you want it. Okay. And the other way to view this, Pam and Jerry, I believe, are going to be sharing their screen. So in the upper right-hand corner, you will have a view box. You click on that view box and you can either go to gallery so you can see everyone, or you can go to speaker view. And when Pam and Jerry are talking or anybody else is talking, they will take up your screen. And when Pam and Jerry are sharing their screen, they will be split between the speaker and the computer screen. So if you have any questions about that, you can send me a chat or just raise your hand and we'll try to make sure everybody's got the viewing situation that they want. So I think that's all that I have. I've got the recording going, so that's good. We can put this on the YouTube channel, and I know it'll be a big hit. Again, Jerry wanted me to introduce Pam. Pam doesn't need an introduction to the group that we've got here. Everybody knows Pam. And, Pam does such a great job with our programs. And not to mention just helping us all get through all of these scenarios, not just the ones covered by Dear Abby. So Pam, thank you very much for what you're going to do this morning and for everything else you do. And I'm going to turn it over to you to get started.
Okay, thank you very much, Larry and Jerry. And Charlene, I want to thank her for her input. So when she sees this, she'll hear that. Well, I want to share my screen with the PowerPoint. I have a PowerPoint presentation with each scenario. And then I have, after each scenario, I have answers of what I thought would be good. And I would like any of you to share your experiences and what you've done to help yourself in those difficult situations. So for me to get my PowerPoint, I go to share screen. Is that what I do? Okay. Well, I don't see start slideshow.
It's on the top. It's right there.
Oh, right here. Okay, thank you. It's been a while since I've used PowerPoint. There we go.
There we go.
Okay, dear Abby, my husband is always interrupting the conversations. He's not hearing the conversation and he starts talking before others are finished. I know it's because he's not hearing everything that is being said. I feel very embarrassed for him and us. What should I do? You're embarrassed. Encourage your husband to have his hearing tested, and if needed, obtain hearing amplification for him. Set up ground rules for the group or family conversations. Only one person speaks at a time. Raise hand to indicate that you want to speak. Count to 2 before you speak to make sure that you're not interrupting the conversation. So those were some of the ideas that I had. Does anybody else have some input regarding this scenario? Or if you've experienced it? Actually, I might share with you an experience that I had with, well, actually it's my ex-husband. He, whenever we were with people, it was sort of the opposite way. Whenever we were with people and somebody asked me a question, it always took me longer to respond because I was processing the question. So he would interrupt and answer for me. And after a while, I felt like a bump on the log and had no input or anything. And it was very discouraging for me. So I had to ask him to wait for me to answer unless I looked at him for support. And so we did a little better after that. That was an example, a difficulty that I had. It took me a while to understand what was going on. Larry.
Yeah, I have had experience with this, and Elizabeth and I have, we've had this discussion. And it's a fine line between your experience, Pam, and her trying to be protective of me and explaining to people what's going on, and my trying to advocate for myself and be part of the conversation. So yeah, it's a tough one, but I think your answer of setting some ground rules initially is a very good thing to do, because it just, when two people are talking, I always tell people, if two of you talk at once, I don't hear anybody.
Mm,
If one of you talk at a time, I got a 50-50 shot. I might understand what you're saying, but if two people are talking, I have no clue.
mhm.
All right, so Lou has his hand raised.
Yes, I'd like to comment. My experience has been that when you get a group of people together, say, for example, at a dinner table where there's maybe 6 people around the table, everybody starts talking and I can never get into the conversation because people start talking before the other person gets through talking, and it's just impossible. And sometimes you have to bully your way into the conversation. But I think, and we've tried setting rules in my family, but they're only good for about 5 minutes, and everybody goes back to acting the same way they were before. Raising your hand seems to work the best for me.
Mm. Oh, okay. And you've tried that with your family where they have to raise their hand to speak?
Yes, well, no, necessarily. The only time anybody raises a hand, it's me when I want to speak.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, yeah. I think Mike has, yeah, thanks, Lou. That's really helpful. Mike, you had something to want to share?
I Zoom with my family often. I have a brother that has Parkinson's. And so we try to Zoom with him when one of his kids is there because he's to the stage where he can't really talk anymore. It's very difficult for him to speak. So one of his children will be there and we can communicate with him that way. I have a big family. I've got 6 sisters and 2 brothers. And it's we've learned that that's too many people from one family to try to Zoom together. So we try to limit it to maybe 4 or 5. We Zoomed recently and I could hardly get a word in. So I raised my hand and I finally just had to talk over my sisters and say, I would like to talk to my brother, or I would like to ask so-and-so a question. And it was really frustrating. I'm kind of a quiet person anyways. And people tend to talk over me. So the hand raising doesn't always work. So sometimes I just have to interrupt. But I've learned that instead of just interrupting and speaking, is to interrupt and say, I would like to speak.
Mm.
And then sometimes they'll acknowledge me and let me speak.
That's, yeah. Thank you for sharing that. That's great.
Yeah.
Any other comments or thoughts or experiences? Okay. Dear Abby, I have a lot of difficulty hearing my doctor. He or she is wearing a mask and his or her voice is very muffled. I cannot see his or her face. My appointment is coming up and I'm worried that I'll not be able to hear my doctor. What should I do? You're worried. Ask your doctor to wear one of the safe and clear masks. You will then be able to see their face and their voices are not so muffled behind this type of mask. There are apps that you could use that will transcribe your doctor's voice into writing. You'll be able to read what your doctor is saying.
Trying to get rid of this.
Yeah, I know.
You can also save the conversation for future review. Ask your doctor to speak slower and louder. so that you could hear him or her better and understand what your doctor is saying. Are there any other things that people have tried to be able to hear your doctors or important person that you're trying to hear?
It's funny you should bring this up. My response has been to get a different doctor.
Yeah.
I have tried everything I know with the doctor that I have. And getting him to wear a mask with the safe and clear mask, if I was sitting on his computer screen, I would be able to speech read him. But I'm on the other side of the room. And I just cannot get through to this person. So I'm just getting a different doctor. The other thing that we've found is when possible, I try to take Elizabeth to an appointment with me because she hears much better than I do. And she's actually, she's more assertive than I am. So she will, she'll kind of put him in his place a little bit, but it only lasts, somebody said, as Lou said, it only lasts for 2 or 3 minutes. And then he's right back to the same old habit of typing into his computer and looking at his computer screen and not looking at me. And I have no clue as to what he's saying.
That's definitely a very good idea to bring someone with you to the appointment. Go ahead, Ted.
I wear a little sign around my neck, says I'm hearing disabled. And if the doctor starts to screw it up so I can't understand him, I point to the sign and then they try harder. I found that works everywhere that I go.
That's a good idea.
That's a great idea. Lou, do you have something to share?
Well, I go to the VA and it's a 2-step process every time you go in there. The first thing you do is check in, then you sit down, and then they call you in to the pre-screening, I guess you call it. They weigh you, and then they sit down, have you sit in a chair, and then they sit there and they're looking at a screen and they're running through this whole litany of things that they're required to ask you, like, do you feel safe in your home, blah, 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 blah. And they're facing their screen when you're talking. So sometimes it's very difficult. But like Ted says, you know, if you have one of those buttons that says face me, I speech read, and you keep reminding them, sometimes that works. And then from that screening, then you go in to see the doctor, and he's going to sit there and look at the screen to review what that pre-screening people's, what answers they had. And so you got to go through it all over again. So it's no win situation. It can be very difficult, but I think those viewing masks are a big help.
Mhm. Yeah, and then the sign saying, I speech read, please look at me. Sounds,
Right.
that's a great idea, both. Mike?
Sometimes I think silence works. I was a sales manager for many years, and I had a lot of salesmen over the years, and oftentimes it's kind of like being a policeman. You don't say anything. You ask them a question and you just look at them. And if the doctor were to do that, perhaps we should just be silent. And then maybe eventually he or she will look at you and say, why aren't you answering? And you could say, because I can't read your face or your lips.
Yeah, that's certainly a way to get their attention. Yeah. Lou? Go ahead, Lou.
Oh, just want to piggyback a little bit on that. I was a real estate agent for a number of years, and I would spend a lot of time with my clients driving around town, going to different places that houses they wanted to see. And when you're driving, you have to be watching the road, and you can't be turning your head to see what they're saying. And I finally gave up real estate because it was just so frustrating and trying to deal in those kinds of situations.
And there probably weren't remote microphones available at that time either.
No, that was back in the 70s.
Yeah. Has anybody tried using a remote microphone with their doctor?
You mean like a pocket talker?
Yeah, yeah.
Well, that's a good idea. I haven't tried that.
Yeah,
Actually, the mini might be a good idea too.
Yeah.
yeah. I can't see everybody, so I don't know if there's other people raising their hand.
Danny has a
Not
question.
knowing any.
Danny,
Yes, okay, thank you. Yes, I use a pocket talker and it works very well. I just did it here a couple of
Danny,
weeks.
I think Danny might have something.
You can't hear me? I just did the pocket talker here about 2 weeks ago when I went in to get my eyes examined, and the doctor even appreciates it. And so now she's gotten, so she asked me if I brought it. So that works very well.
Oh, that's great. Really great. Thanks for sharing that. Anything else? Oh, okay. Anything else? Okay. Dear Abby, we're now finally able to go to restaurants. But the last time I went to a restaurant, I had trouble hearing my companions because it was so noisy. I answered some questions wrong, and I could tell I made mistakes because of the weird looks I got from my companions. I was very embarrassed. What should I do? You're embarrassed. When you go to a restaurant, take a look around and find the best seating for you and ask if you could sit there. If you know the best table for you, call the restaurant and reserve the table in advance. If the restaurant is playing music loudly, you could ask them to turn it down while you are there. Have your audiologist or hearing instrument specialist program your hearing aid to have a speech and noise program. You need to try it out and give your audiologist feedback on how it is working for you so they could fine tune it for you. Give your companion a remote microphone that will stream to your hearing aids so you can hear them better while in the noisy environment. That could be a remote microphone or pocket talker, anything like that. Anybody else have some other ideas or things they've tried?
Okay, well, go ahead, Irv.
Did you ask me to go ahead?
Well, yeah, you came up, so I think maybe you.
No, we're trying to get rid of a great big. We have
Okay.
something on our screen here and we can't get rid of it.
Well,
All right, well, I will mention, I think these are all really good suggestions.
Anyway, us, we'll just watch you.
The speech and noise program, I've had one of those on my hearing aid for a number of years, but it took a long time for, I think it was Doug Sladen to say to me, well, when you're using that, make sure that you are facing the person you want to hear, and if possible, put your back to a window so you don't have noise behind you, even if you have a speech and noise program. So because what that's doing is directionally your mics are looking straight ahead. So you don't want to have your face toward all the noise. If that's making sense to you. But the other thing we found is we use OpenTable a lot to make reservations at restaurants. And you can put a special request in that says, we have a guest with a hearing disability that wears a hearing aid, please give us a quiet table. And that works some of the time, not all the time.
Yeah. Nice. Lou, do you have some other ideas or experiences?
Well, I can tell you what works for me. Of course, I have cochlear implants, and I do have a mini microphone. I put my mini microphone on the table, and then I select on my remote control, I select the mixture of sound so that it's 100% microphone and 100% mini mic and 0 on my microphones on my processor. So I don't have any background noise coming into my ears. The only sound I'm getting is 100% what's from the middle of the table. And it really helps a lot because that way I can hear the people around me talking without having to deal with all that background noise.
That's great. It's great to hear that you use the microphone, the mini microphone, because these assistive devices, they're available, but not a lot of people use them, and they're so effective along with our hearing aids. Yeah. Any other suggestions?
Uh,
Pam, I've got a question for Lou, but I have the telecoil, and will those same systems with the mini mic work with a telecoil? You know.
If the mini mic is a direct connection with your hearing aids, but with the telecoil, you could use the pocket talker with a loop, and then you could extend the pocket talker microphone to the person you're trying to hear, and then use your telecoil, and that will cut out a lot of the background noise coming into your hearing aid. You'll hear more directly from the pocket talker.
You know, also, Ted, if you have an FM system, you won't have to worry about dragging that microphone cord across the table. If you just take your transmitter, lay it in the middle of the table, and then keep the receiver in your pocket with the neck loop plugged into it.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks for bringing that one up. Okay. Dear Abby, Thanksgiving is coming up and we're having all the family together. It's going to be wonderful as we have not been together for such a long time. I also feel anxious because I often hear everyone laughing and I do not know what they're laughing about. I sometimes feel very lonely, like a fly on the wall, looking down on everyone. How can I make this better for me so I have a good time? You're lonely. Ask your family to review communication strategies and let them know what you need to make this a really enjoyable time for you and them. Take your time to talk to each family member while they're visiting. You may need to go to another room or go for a walk to have that special time with them. Ask for repetition if you missed a joke so you could feel part of it. This is a tough one for me because when I do visit my family, there could be, we talked earlier, like 8 people around the table, and then there's a lot of conversation going on. And I sometimes get very depressed if I don't make an effort to spend time with each family member. Because if I rely on the big situations, I'm not part of it as well. And then I feel, very not part of the family. So I try to really take that time to talk to each member so that I have a special connection with them. And that helps me to make my visits a whole lot better. Does anyone else have something to share about family time?
I have exactly the same experience, and I agree with what you just recommended.
Okay, thank you. Okay. Dear Abby, I cannot hear the TV clearly. My children have told me that it's way too loud, and my dog leaves the room whenever I turn the TV on. I don't really enjoy the shows because I miss half of the show. I am so frustrated. I don't know what to do. Dear frustrated. First off, if you've not had your hearing tested, I would highly recommend that you have your hearing tested and follow through with the audiologist and hearing instrument specialist recommendations. Try turning the captions on your TV. You could then read everything that is being said. If you have a remote microphone, you could put it next to the speaker of your TV and have it stream to you. There are TV connects that you could plug into your TV to stream directly to your hearing aids. A telecoil loop that can plug into your TV, and you could turn on your telecoil and hear the TV directly in your hearing aid. Are there any other suggestions that people might use to help them to hear? Hi, go ahead, Ted.
I set my system up so that with a loop, I connect my hearing aid to a hi-fi amplifier that I have, and I can hear my sound separately from what my wife hears. And I just go directly to that sound only, and it helps greatly. I get my sound at my level. She gets her sound at the level she needs.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, I do the same thing with my streamer, and I think the real answer here, you've got a lot of good suggestions. There are devices that solve this problem, but you really need a hearing aid because without that, you're going to be using the volume off the TV. So I use my streamer in such a fashion that I can have the TV on mute. So Elizabeth doesn't need to know or listen to any sound from what I'm watching, but I hear it perfectly because it goes straight to my hearing aid.
Mhm. That's great. Lou, do you have something?
Oh, I just want to add that if a person does not have hearing aids, there are devices like Larry said, for example, the TV ears program, which streams Bluetooth to your ears through a headset.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Anyone else? Dear Abby, I'm going to be flying on an airplane to see my family. I'm nervous about hearing the announcements. The last time I went to the airport, I missed my plane because I did not hear the announcement that the gate had changed. What can I do? you're nervous. That must have been very nerve-wracking. I would recommend that when you check in, tell the checker that you have hearing loss and that you missed a flight once because you did not hear the announcement. They will then keep you posted and will even have you go on the plane early so that you have a more comfortable experience. I did try that once because I'm always very anxious when I go to the airport, afraid that I might miss. I don't understand the announcements when they announce them. So I did tell the checker that I was hard of hearing. And so when the announcements came on, she came over and told them to me in person. And I got to go on the plane. I got on to early boarding. And throughout the flight, she came down and told me each of the announcements that whoever made an announcement, she would come down and tell me in person. I was pretty impressed, but I was kind of embarrassed because I didn't feel like I was that handicapped. But at the same time, it made me relax a lot more, and yeah, it's something. If you haven't tried that, you should really try that, and because it makes the experience a whole lot better. And so I got Lou and Ted. You want to go ahead, Lou? You're at the top of the screen.
Okay, now I know Southwest Airlines, if you tell them that you are hard of hearing and don't understand what's been said over the speakers, they actually have a piece of paper with everything written on it. They give it to you so you can sit down and read everything that they're going to say. Also, I have found that when they say if you have a disability, you can board early, and they consider hearing loss a disability. So that gives you a few minutes. You can get in there and talk to the flight attendant before you walk down the aisle and explain to them what your situation is.
Yeah, great. Ted, do you have something to share about this?
Yes, I do. I've got over 17 million miles just on American alone. And when I check in, as Lou said, I tell them about my hearing problem, and I'm always sitting right at the corner. They get me a spot so that I am probably one of the first to board because they are aware of it. And as Lou said, they give you instructions in writing, and so you don't really care about hearing that spiel. You can watch it, enjoy it, but I have it all read and memorized at this point. I've heard flown so much.
Thanks, Ted. Hi, Larry.
Hi, Pam. I just want to let people know to look also for the telecoil symbol. I know that some of the counter spaces at SeaTac are now looped. And I also know from some of the HLAA other leaders around the country that more and more airports are looping. So you will, if you see the telecoil sign, you'll be able to use your telecoil and hear the announcements much, much better.
Yeah, that's great. I haven't seen that in the airports, but I haven't flown for 2 years, so
yeah,
we'll see more of that now.
Most of us haven't seen much of airports.
Okay, nice, great information, everybody. Lou?
I have one more comment. I just thought about it. I haven't done it, but I think I'm going to do it in the future. When I am in the waiting area, I'm going to take my mini mic and ask the gate attendant to wear it. And that way I don't have to struggle. I can hear everything that she says.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
I saw Mike raising his hand a couple of times. You might acknowledge him.
I was wondering if my I was wondering if my hand worked or not. It didn't seem to be working, but it did. Thanks for pointing
Sorry,
that out.
yeah,
I
thanks for,
actually, I missed a flight one time because I had my back to the counter and I was sitting a fair distance away. I was reading a book and I wasn't paying attention because I thought that I could hear. And much to my surprise and dismay, I turned around and everyone was gone. And so was the plane. So I've never turned my back again on the counter. And I always try to sit up close so that I can see what people are doing. And when you start to see them moving, you kind of get the idea that, oh, it looks like we're going to be boarding here.
mm,
Yeah, that worked for me too, Mike, until I got on the wrong plane one time.
Did the plane
Where'd you go?
did the plane take
I
off?
know they caught it before it took off, but it was a little embarrassing to be to have to get up.
That would be okay, maybe if the plane was going to Hawaii or something.
They changed the gate. I didn't hear that
Oh,
part.
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, they do that. Yeah. Yeah.
Where did you end up?
Oh, I ended up where I was trying to go, but I had to get off the plane and go to a different gate.
Yeah. That's funny, but not funny at the time, I'm sure.
But they do change gates like that sometimes, and that's really scary because you may be in a different area of the airport and you can hardly get there in time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I double check the screen. I constantly look at the, the main screen where the gate's supposed to be, and
Yeah.
The last time I flew, I was doing that, Pam, and the main screen said they had changed gates. So I went to the new gate and that did not have the new information. I went to the old gate and that did not have the new information. So finally I found another person who was having the same problem, but she could hear. So we worked it out, but it was, we were both walking back and forth between the two gates for several minutes trying to figure it out.
wow.
I think it's a really good idea to let them know that you're hard of hearing at the gate, with whatever you call the people that are standing behind the counter.
Attendance.
Yeah. We have a few more left. Dear Abby, we recently spent time with my 88-year-old grandfather. He was proudly wearing his new hearing aids. He's hearing so much better with them, even at the restaurant. He was joining in our conversations in spite of the background noise. I was astounded. He has never had that experience before. He always hated his hearing aids and wouldn't wear them. It was so wonderful to spend time with him. Please tell your readers that there are organizations that will take donated hearing aids and provide them to people who cannot afford them, or take them, hold on, got to move the captions. To provide them to people who cannot afford them, or take them to countries where there's very little hearing care. I'm so thrilled for my grandfather. I'm so glad he tried hearing aids again. Oops.
I have a question.
Well,
My wife in her 80s also will not go get hearing testing or aids. How to get them to do it?
how do you tell her to do that?
I've been begging her for 2 years now.
Oh,
And ever since this pandemic, she said, I'm not going to go until we don't have to wear masks.
oh, Yeah. That's a hard one. And sometimes it takes a serious situation that will then finally spur someone to make the effort to be tested. At our, you might want to start with asking her questions like, what is she afraid of? What's bothering her about it? So that you get to the bottom of what's preventing her from going forward. And at our clinic, there's no obligation whatsoever. We really want to test hearings to make sure that the person is not having any serious problems. And then from there, we could outline steps and for them to try something. We try to make it as nice as possible, as easy as possible for someone to experience hearing aids without having any obligation whatsoever. But it's hard getting people to make that first step. And sometimes it takes 7 years before someone will really take the step. The fact that she suggested that when she doesn't have to wear a mask, she'll go in, that's a small step.
It's a major agreement.
Yes, yeah. Lou, do you have a suggestion?
Yes, I do. It's common that people want to try and help people who have a disability, but sometimes that can backfire on you. And I think where hearing loss goes, in a case like Barbara, Ted's wife, don't be so willing to accommodate. Instead of raising your voice, speak at a normal voice. And if she starts struggling, eventually she'll get tired of not being able to understand you.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah, that's a great, that's a kind of a reverse approach. So,
Right.
yeah. So here, an estimated 20 million Americans suffer from some kind of hearing loss. I was once told about a sign hanging in an audiologist's office. Your hearing loss is far more obvious to everyone else than your hearing aid will be. You could donate hearing aids to Western Washington University and Spencer Audiology Clinic in Bellingham, Washington. Your contribution is tax deductible. Whatcom County chapter will provide a letter for your donation for tax purposes. Please let your chapter know that you made a hearing aid donation. This was just more about, donating hearing aids that are sitting around. And we are able to provide a letter for your taxes for a charitable donation. Lou, do you have something more to add?
Pam,
No, my hand didn't go down. Just a second here.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Pam,
Yes?
I do have a comment. This is Danny.
Oh, hi, Danny.
Okay. Your sentence in the middle says your hearing loss is far more obvious to everyone else than your hearing aid will be. And that's one of my biggest gripes, is that it goes, I guess it goes back to when Reagan was in office and he got hearing aids and they were going on and on about how you couldn't see them. They were in the ear and all that. And I think that's going the wrong direction. At the oculist yesterday, I was getting my glasses that fit, and the displays were they were styles and all the great things you can put on your face for sight. But no, don't put in hearing aids that anybody will see. That's terrible. And so my last hearing aid is so small, I just fumble around trying to get it in my ear. I wish it were a little bigger so it wouldn't be so difficult. So that's a gripe that I have, that you can get stylish glasses, but oh no, don't let anybody see your hearing aid.
Yeah, that's true. They have gotten smaller, and so they're not very visible. And I feel the one thing that has opened up more acceptance of hearing aids is the cochlear implant, because it's larger and it's much more visible. And people have seen shows on TV about cochlear implants. And so I think in general, people are fascinated about how that can help somebody who is deaf. And so I have noticed that there's more acceptance of hearing aids because of the implant. And because we are seeing more and more people with them, more children with them, and it's just been astounding the kind of results that we're getting. So I do agree with you. Miniaturizing it is not, it's nice, but we don't really want to hide what we have. We want to embrace it.
Pam, I just wanted to add to what Danny said. Many years ago, I wore CICs completely in the canal. And my hearing was getting worse. So Elizabeth and I talked about it, and we decided to go with a BTE, which is much more visible. And part of our logic was, gee, if people see your hearing aid, they will understand that you're hard of hearing, and maybe they'll be a little bit more accommodating. So we ran that experiment, and I concluded that really the only people that check for hearing aids are people that have hearing aids. So I'm custom. I always, when I'm talking to someone, I subconsciously will look to see if they're wearing hearing aids. But other people never checked for me. And I also had a corollary problem, is that I was single-sided hearing. I was completely deaf in my left ear, so I didn't wear anything on my left side. Well, when I had the BTE on my right side, everybody thought, well, we'll solve this problem. We'll just talk in his left ear. I didn't hear anything. So, that was my experience. But I agree with you completely, Danny, that trying to make these things smaller and go away, we should, as Pam said, we want to embrace what we have. I'm not embarrassed by it. Now I don't have any hair, and I wear a CI, so anybody who pays any attention at all knows I have a hearing problem.
I found that my sign makes a big difference. People look and notice that I'm hearing aids, and having the hearing aids, they try, because my sign also explains, talk slowly, try to enunciate, be clear with the words, and don't talk fast. And they're very, very conscious of helping when they see the sign. So I suggest we all who have hearing problems, when you go out in public, wear them. It's easy.
And I think there's another part of that. When people see hearing aids, then they think you should be able to hear normally. And unfortunately, that's not the case for a lot of people. And I think that's hard for people to understand. Like when you are being helped by something, but you're not hearing normally, it's difficult, especially if they've not experienced being around someone who wears hearing aids. So we have to take the time to educate people and help them to understand what it all means.
I should also add WWU has helped me so greatly. I can't recommend them enough.
Yeah. Yeah. That's so great. It's so great that they're in our backyard. Yeah. Dear Abby, after living with my husband's gradual hearing loss for several years and his refusal to get hearing aids, I finally asked him to get them as a birthday gift for me. He agreed and he got new hearing aids. When he wears them, he hears so much better. But now the problem is that he seldom wears them at home with me. I feel disrespected because he is not willing to do this small thing to make both our lives easier. How do I explain this to him so he hears me? So this carries on with your frustration, Ted. You're disrespected. This may not be a matter of your husband tuning you out. This may not be a matter of your husband tuning you out. Have you asked him why he doesn't wear the hearing aids? Could it be that they are uncomfortable and need adjusting? Is inserting the batteries difficult for him? Is he bothered by the amplified sound? Once you know the resistance, you could both consult with his audiologist, hearing instrument specialist, who prescribe the devices to help rectify the problem. The research is now indicating that untreated hearing loss can lead to earlier onset dementia. So it is important that he feel comfortable wearing his hearing aids throughout the day. And I think we added, quite a bit regarding that situation. And it's a hard one. Each person has their own process. And we can only hope that we could help them through that process. Hi, Larry.
In my house, not wearing my hearing devices would lead to early onset divorce.
Any other comments? Okay. I think this is the last one. Dear Abby, we hearing impaired folks have to work hard just to hear. It triples our challenge when the speaker talks like a runaway racehorse. Most of us cannot hear as fast as so many folks speak today. When I'm in a personal conversation, I can request people to slow down, but there are times when I'm listening to a speaker and it's not possible to request the speaker to slow down. Shall I just nod and smile or leap to my feet and yell, if what you're saying is important, slow down. If it is not important, then sit down. I am so frustrated. Dear frustrated, I realize it's difficult to hear when people speak fast. Before you go to a venue with speakers, you could ask the speaker in advance if they could speak slower, as it's important for people with hearing loss to be able to hear. You could ask the venue to provide assistive listening devices so that you could hear the speakers. This can include a loop system that you could use with your telecoil or an FM system. You could ask the venue to provide real-time captioning. Please request these services well in advance so that they have time to install it or provide these services. It is your right to be able to hear in these types of situations. So I have known Charlene to work with people well in advance to make sure that she has the services that she needs when she attends different meetings. And it's very impressive. She gets what she needs. So it's up to us to really, approach this to help the venue to provide those services. Ted, do you have something to add?
I do. I traveled all over the country, talked at countless universities, testified to Congress, the Senate, State Department, Department of Energy. And I first started telling them, I am hearing impaired, so please be aware of it. And if you have questions, voice them clearly and slowly to me so I can understand. And I talked on technical subjects. So it was kind of an interesting relationship. And it was easy when I couldn't understand somebody to say, hey, remember, I can't understand you if you don't talk clearly.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that. Go ahead, Lou.
One of the things that I find very frustrating, and I don't know if anybody else has experienced this, but so often when you're calling someplace, you end up with somebody with an accent. And sometimes you get with one of these young people that talks a mile a minute. And I've had several cases where I try and tell them, I can't understand you. Do you have somebody that speaks clearly or speaks English, or can you slow down or let me talk to somebody that speaks slowly? And they end up hanging up on me. And it's especially annoying if I've been on hold for a half an hour.
Yeah. Yeah.
I've gone through the same thing, Lou.
Hmm.
I've
actually asked people.
Lou, and I have found just asking for a supervisor and keep going up the chain as much as I need to till I get someone that understands what I'm trying to explain in terms of my hearing disability.
Can I inject something here that I think might be helpful to you? As a hearing person, listening to Bill speak with people on a telephone and run into the issues you're talking about, he used to use what I considered were magical words. And he would say, if you can speak slowly, I can process what you are saying. And in each case, it seemed that that phrase worked, processing. It also helped me as his wife to understand that I needed to slow down because he was working very hard at trying to understand.
That's awesome, Andy. That's the more we could be specific to what we need, the more it'll come back to us in the way that we need it. If we just say what, it'll come back the exact same way. But if we are specific in what we ask for, then that person can help with that situation. And then we might have to remind them again because they go back to their original way of talking. And so we have to keep reminding them. And that was a hard lesson for me because when I was growing up, I felt if I told you once, you should remember that, but that's not the case. I had to be mature and say, remind a person again about my situation and what I needed. And I had to get over that because I used to feel very angry towards people. That anger doesn't work.
Yeah, if I could reinforce what Andy just said, I find that one of the advantages of my caption phone is that I explain to people up front that I use a caption phone and it takes my captioner a few seconds to convert to text what they have said. So if they will please speak slowly, that will help, and give me a few minutes or a few seconds to process so that I get up on my screen what it is they have said. And that actually works pretty well with the caption phone.
That's great. Do you have something more?
I also have a captioning phone. I have a caption call phone, and it has a Bluetooth button on it, which is really wonderful because as soon as I answer the phone, the first thing I do is I press the Bluetooth button and it automatically streams to my ears. So a lot of times I really don't even need the captioning, but it's nice because I can scroll back like for a phone number or something like that. But yes, I know that the captioning can be pretty slow, but if you're real slow to hesitate to reply, it gives the captioning a chance to catch up before you can go any farther.
Pam,
Yes?
my hand is up.
Oh, okay, sorry. I can't see
Well,
everybody.
I was just thinking about recently an experience that Jerry had. He doesn't use his caption phone very often, but it's the absolute godsend. But he has a new doctor, and this doctor is very good about calling him. And but he talks so fast, the captioner can't keep up with him. And so Jerry just stops and reminds him that the captioner cannot. And I noticed the last time that he called him, he was very good about knowing that it would take a minute for the captioner to come on. And before he started, he said, "Can you hear me?" And he was speaking much slower. But that phone is a godsend when it's something important.
Yeah. Got a couple of, yeah. Mike?
I have a question for Lou. We don't have a Bluetooth button on our caption call. You must have a newer model.
Yes, it's a newer model, but the caption call people are very, very willing to update you and give you the new phone. Just call and ask them, tell them that you rely on Bluetooth and you would like the phone that has the Bluetooth capability, and they'll be happy to give it to you.
Thank you. I also have a question going back to a couple of screens ago. We have a TV Connect, and I haven't been able to connect it because I have a sound bar on our television, and I think I need some help on connecting it to the sound bar instead of to the speakers on the television. Are you familiar with TV Connects? I got it from the VA.
Yes, what you need is a splitter, so you can split that signal. Yeah, and
like what you use for a telephone then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the VA is good about giving you those too.
Oh, okay. Thanks.
I have one more question. Is there any kind of a converter from Bluetooth to the telecoil? When I'm out, or I don't have any way of getting to the Bluetooth, whatever.
If I could answer to that, it depends on your hearing aids. The manufacturer of your hearing aids usually has an adapter that you could use that will stream to your hearing aids, but can connect to a Bluetooth phone or computer that has Bluetooth in it. So you have to have that intermediate adapter. So I would have to know what kind of hearing aids you have, and then I could recommend the adapter that you can get for it.
I will find out what I can about that. I got my hearing units through the university and they didn't have an answer for me on it.
Oh. If you could give me the make and the model of your hearing aids, I could look that up for you.
I'll take a quick look here and see if I can tell you that real quickly. Excuse my delay.
Pam.
Jerry, do you have something?
I had to leave unexpectedly because one of my nephews came and told me that there was smoke on the south side of my garage, something was burning.
Oh,
So I go out there and it's the beauty bark on fire.
Oh, wow.
I have no idea why it was on fire. So I got my hose and of course put it out, thank goodness, because I wouldn't have known for another half hour or an hour that there was a fire there. So anyway, it's all out, but now I've got to figure out what caused it.
must feel good to be a good fireman.
Well, anyway, all safe, but that's why I disappeared. So Pam, I didn't get the last 3 responses for us as far as notes, so I'm sorry.
Okay, well, we could relook at them. I thought what I might do is add everyone's comments onto the slides, and then we'll have all the comments on the slideshow. But they'll be there anyway if people watch the whole thing.
Yeah, we'll have the YouTube video, so you'll be able to capture everything you want to capture.
I found what I was looking for. It's a Versata BTE unit.
That sounds like resound. Do you see resound on your paperwork?
I've got a whole manual of stuff with it, but I didn't find anything that indicated a Bluetooth connector.
Okay, I'll look this up for you and then maybe send you an email.
That's great. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, any other comments or questions? This was really great. I learned a lot, actually. Thank you. We have some great people on our association.
Well, and you and Jerry are 2 of them, and we thank you very much for the time that you put into this. I know I learned some things, and I appreciate everybody that shared their thoughts and ideas. It's been very, very helpful.
And I will echo that. Thank you everyone for participation, and we'll let Charlene know. She'll be excited that it was successful. So we did, I think, quite well because of your participation. So thank you.
Yeah.
And speaking of Charlene, she did send me an email and asked me to extend everyone her greetings from the north rim of the Grand Canyon. She is having a good time. Does anybody have anything else to add? Okay, I again will send out an email with the link to the YouTube video for this recording. So that will be available. And I'll also send out the information on the celebration of life for Bill Collison and Bert, so that you'll have those dates, times, and places. I think we'll Pam is going to work on seeing what we can do about finding a place for the potluck in August. And we'll also be in touch about that.
Yeah.
And then until then, don't hesitate to reach out if you have any questions or suggestions. And stay safe, stay healthy. Keep your fingers crossed for some rain. Good job on getting that fire out, Jerry, because that could have turned into a much bigger problem.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks everybody for being here and have a great weekend.
You too.
Pam and Larry, can I speak to you after the meeting? So
Yeah.
don't go away.
Okay.
I
Bye,
won't
everyone.
the meeting for everyone then. Okay.
So Pam, I wasn't sure how you wanted to do this as far as the information that I got on the first 7. I was thinking what we might be able to do is if you have if I share with you orally what I collected on the first 7, then you could just type it right onto your computer as I'm telling you. And that way we could get it done pretty quickly and not necessarily have to meet together.
Right.
So
Okay.
is there another way we can do this? I mean, I can simply, call you and do like a phone chat if we want to do that, and you could have your computer on. But anyway, because I know Larry wants to send out the connection or the email so people can, take a look. So I would like to probably do that as soon as possible. I could meet Monday with you, but maybe a Zoom call or just doing it some other way will work for us. I was disappointed, Larry, that we only had 11 people. But, it's probably partly because it's summertime. And it's like Charlene, people are out and about, thank goodness, doing things, especially with things reopening. So I guess that's probably the reason because, last time we had about, 2 years ago, 25 or 30 people in person. But anyway, seemed to be good. We had a good response. It took us almost an hour and a half. So we're good.
Yeah.
Anyway, Pam, how do you want to do this?
Jerry, if you want to do it right now, that might be the best time for me.
Okay, Larry, can we go ahead and just stay on, the 2 of us?
I don't know. Let me see. Yeah, I can just leave the meeting and you 2 can stay on. How do you want to, if you're going to change the slides, I'm not going to be able to incorporate that into the video on YouTube.
Okay.
So we could.
Maybe we just have to leave it and then people watch the whole thing. They'll see both sides. They'll, hear what people said and see what I had. We purposely didn't put everything down because we wanted people to share their experiences. So maybe we should just leave it. That would save us a lot of time.
I'm sorry, you mean save us a lot of time because we won't be able to put this information on? Is that correct?
Yeah, so if people want to watch the video, they're going to see both the PowerPoint presentation and they'll hear people's comments.
Okay, so they
That
will
might be
to get it from what people are saying, as well as the responses that Dear Abby gave were very good also. But yes, a lot of people added personal info. So as long as they could hear it, then we're good.
Yeah, and hearing the stories and yeah, so maybe we should just leave it.
Leave it. Okay, that'll save us time. And so go out and enjoy the sunshine, everyone. I'm
Yeah.
gonna get to work and check my fire. last summer and this summer in my back small yard. I have a bird bath and I have a mirror down at the base, and the birds will sometimes really fly down there and look at themselves. So that's why I had it by the bottom of that bird bath. Well, last summer, I was out in the north yard and I was coming back in and I saw smoke in my backyard. And I thought, what in the devil's that? There's nothing burning there. So I go over there, and the mirror with the sunlight from the south shining down on the bark caused it to flare up. And so
Oh, wow.
I'm like, wow, I didn't understand it first. So obviously I put it out and I was thinking about it. I go back to work. I come back an hour and a half later from the north yard. It's on fire again. And
Oh,
it's like, okay, this is not going to work. And so I moved the mirror angle, and then I did it again this year like a slow learner, thinking I had it at the right angle. It caught on fire again. So now I moved the mirror to the south side so there's no sunlight on that mirror. But this thing about the south side of the
Wow.
garage, there is
Wow, that's
over there. The only thing that I see that's there are those glass insulators that they use for power poles in the old days. I have some of those over there, and I was thinking maybe that glass reflected the sunlight, but that's amazing. Anyway,
yeah.
I'm glad my nephew just happened to be here and saw it smoking.
that's
Wow.
good.
Yeah.
That
All
was
right.
lucky.
We did a great job, Pam. Thank you, thank you,
Yeah.
thank you. Larry,
Thank you.
good emceeing.
Okay,
All
Well,
right,
it was good. It was good. Thank you both.
thank you. Bye-bye.
All right. We'll talk soon.
Bye.